Years ago, we visited New York as a family. Blair and I always allow our children, back then they were much smaller, to do research and tell us which highlights they would like to include. The three kids selected three different iconic experiences: a Broadway show, the Statue of Liberty, the M&M store. I won't tell you which child picked which experience, but I insist to you that each of my children were brilliant, are brilliant. And while the Broadway show and the M&M store were both impactful in their own way, I'd like to focus on the trip we made to meet Lady Liberty. It was a freezing cold day, and we stood at the base looking up at her holding the torch, the flame of freedom, facing out into the waters, ready to welcome strangers from foreign lands. And together as a family, we read the poem, The New Colossus. Etched in bronze and mounted on the statue's pedestal. We took such pride in explaining to our kids that its author was Emma Lazarus, a Jewish woman who wrote about the early Jewish immigration experience. Written in 1883, the lyrical masterpiece reads as follows: "Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed, sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles, from her beacon hand, glows worldwide welcome, her mild eyes command. The air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame, keep ancient lands your storied pomps," she cries, with silent lips, "give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." Reflecting on these words this week, I have a haunting feeling that if the Mother of Exiles turned her head and peeked behind her inside of the United States of America and considered the deep turmoil we face concerning the subject of both immigration and law enforcement, I have a haunting feeling that she would be disappointed. After the killing of American citizens Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good, I feel compelled to stand here and discuss it in this sanctuary. We are a community of ideas. This is a pulpit from which one ought to lead. And I recognize that there's a chance that some of you might leave here unsatisfied or even angry. But it's time to lend some sanctity and perspective to this subject, and there's no greater home of sanctity and perspective than this room. I sincerely hope that whether you find yourself on the political left or the political right, I hope that all of us can begin this talk by acknowledging the killings of Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good as tragic. I would hope that nobody thinks that they deserved death. In light of tragedy, we gather together and we talk. We learn texts. We bring meaning to moments like this. Ours is a tradition in which we welcome the stranger. In only 2 short weeks, we'll read from the Torah, "V'ger lo toneh v'lo tilchatzenu ki gerim hayitem be'eretz Mitzrayim." You shall not wrong or oppress a stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. In the last several weeks, I have heard many rabbis quote that verse, sign petitions that cite that verse, write articles that include that verse. The concept of welcoming the stranger is mentioned dozens of times in our Torah. And at the same time, we all know that there are boundaries to our welcome. For example, we welcome non-Jewish people into our sanctuary each and every Shabbat morning. And there are many honors we don't believe appropriate for their participation. This is what it means to be a law-based society. We maintain for ourselves an ideal, and in reality, we put up guardrails. Between the ideal and the reality, there are 1,000 versions of welcome, a spectrum of tonality, a myriad of shades of unspoken language that communicate to the guest the true intent of our behavior. In such cases, the implementation matters more than the policy itself. Criminals should be arrested and brought to justice. And it is not surprising to me that many, many Americans feel unsettled or angry to see masked federal agents in unmarked vans raiding neighborhoods and making arrests. It feels that the net is being cast too wide. It is inhumane to see images of small children arrested. Watching the videos of the killings, having read testimonies, I believe that we can do better than this. We are better than this. In the range between ideal and some twisted apocalyptic reality, as a society, we have swung too far away from the ideal. Perhaps after years of neglect, we are long overdue for comprehensive immigration reform. And perhaps after years of neglect, we are in need of a return to basic derech eretz in this country, in terms of our collective American behavior toward one another. Most especially, and I say this in this room to our community, Jews need to stop using Holocaust references for every event, politician, and policy with which they don't agree. I believe that we can do better than this. We are better than this. It is also absolutely true that ours is a tradition in which we respect law enforcement. We just welcomed LAPD Chief McDonnell to our community for a far-ranging conversation. In the fall, we'll once again read in the Torah, Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha, you shall appoint judges and police officers for yourselves. We are not a people that spits at law enforcement or harasses members of law enforcement who are given legal orders. While we as American Jews believe in the right to protest, we do not harm or jeopardize law enforcement in any manner. Whether you find yourself on the political left or the political right, I would hope that none of us want criminals from other countries infiltrating our communities and threatening our way of life. We can certainly aspire to do better than just allow those who are here illegally and have committed crimes to stay and enjoy the blessings of this country. I don't think the only choice is whether or not we want to accept criminality. And I'd hope that we can all relate and sympathize with many undocumented immigrants in their desire to come here and work for a better life. Here as well, I think we can all do better. It is impossible to look at any of the videos with our own eyes and think that what is happening on the streets of Minnesota is working out well for anybody. American citizens have been shot and killed. Too many innocent people have been arrested. Too many police officers and ICE agents have been injured by criminals and mob protests. There is a way forward. It feels like our society possesses more anger than empathy right now. I can't help look at all of the unrest, all of it, and feel that we have to step forward and change our strategy. We need to find balance again in this country. We cannot afford to swing between executive-ordered open borders and executive-ordered ICE raids. For the sake of all of our citizens, we need to find a balance that better represents our ideals. I have an abiding faith in what this country stands for. At our best, we are the country of Eliot Ness and the arrest of Al Capone. And we are the country of Dr. King and Rabbi Heschel and the story of civil rights. But nonviolent protest and civil rights feel like a distant memory because civility feels like a distant memory. For civility, derech eretz, to rear its head once again in America, we have to trust and believe in the best intention of our neighbors again. We have to believe that our country is capable of pushing away from extremism and finding a balance again. We have to believe that this experiment in becoming a more perfect union still endures. Do we still aspire to be better? Or do we just aspire to be right? Too often I feel today that everyone around us wants to be right and win the debate. Few want to engage in conversation and aspire to grow, to better themselves, and to better the community around us. Our Jewish tradition is one of thought, of hope, of aspiration. We have a Talmud of thousands of arguments with a small percentage of debates settled. Even less I'd consider one. This week in the Torah, God saves the children of Israel once again by splitting the sea of reeds. In possibly the most cinematic scene in all the Torah, after we pass between the walls of the water to freedom, the sea swallows and kills the Egyptian army. And then in unison, the entire children of Israel sing the song of the sea. A famous midrash appears in the Talmud, in both Sanhedrin and in Megillah, and describes the angels attempting to sing songs of praise as the Egyptians drown, only to be rebuked by God, who asks them, "Ma'aseh yadai tov'in bayam va'atem omrim shira lefanai." My handiwork is drowning in the sea, and you want to sing in front of me? Make no mistake about it. We won. The world was better off with the children of Israel free, and it was better off with the Egyptian demise. Yet God still corrected the angels. The reality of politics and winning and losing should not be enough for American Jews. God wants us to aspire to be better. I am not sure, in all honesty, how we emerge from the Minnesota incident, from the episode, from these images, and begin to improve our country again. I'm not sure how it will happen, but I deeply believe that this country can find its balance again. We've been through dark days before, and we've healed. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Those words have not always been true. They certainly weren't true for the approximately 500,000 or more African slaves brought to this country against their will. Those words were not true when this country passed the Immigration Act of 1924 and established a strict quota system. Those words weren't true in May 1939 when the ship the St. Louis was refused to dock at an American port despite appeals to President Roosevelt. The ship contained more than 900 Jewish refugees who were condemned to return to the burning inferno that would become Holocaust Europe just months later. My own grandparents were only permitted to enter this country legally once they received their papers and had a sponsor that would accept responsibility for them. They were fortunate to gain access to this amazing country, and the arrival was far from welcoming. They were treated as immigrants, newcomers, strangers. Their welcome was far from ideal. The mother of exiles welcoming the tired and the poor is not always reality. Yet it should always stand as our collective aspiration. As Rabbi Nachman taught us, if you believe that breaking is possible, then believe that fixing is possible as well. With our eyes gazed upward above politics, we hold our eternal ideals within our sights. And standing there just beneath the heavens, we see Lady Liberty, a mighty woman with a torch, lifting a lamp beside our golden door. The torch reminds us of our everlasting God-given rights. It illuminates our collective path toward our aspirations and dreams. It burns bright, fueled by the idea that fixing and self-betterment in this land is possible and sometimes even required. Shabbat Shalom.